If he didn't have STDs, then sure, he should have joined the Marines.
Yeah, because they'll find out.
Yeah.
And they will DC your ass.
Yeah, real quick. There was no hiding from that. No, does he have AIDS?
You know, I thought he had, like, the clap or some shit.
Oh, no, yeah. No, he has crabs.
Or hepatitis. I don't know. Herpes.
Oh my
herpes.
God.
Herpes, yeah, herpes.
That's right.
Y'all need to go through quite a sentence to figure that one out.
I like that. No, he's got the clap. Or, no, gonorrhea. No, herpes.
You're not like,
So
yeah.
Because I remember now, Scogan was in the party, and he's like, whatever, I ain't going to about to get lectured by a man with herpes.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, in your honest opinion, of all the Assassin's Creed protagonists, from Assassin's Creed, the original with Altair, all the way up to Assassin's Creed Valhalla with Eivor, who do you think would win a death battle?
Call it battle royales for legal issues.
Who do you think would win a battle royale?
Alright, just to avoid
To analyze their weapons, skills, and abilities to figure out who would win.
So,
Let's start with the first game and work our way forward.
okay.
Altair is not necessarily a gifted fighter. He's definitely a good fighter.
He's more
But
of like a stealth, kind of like
Yeah.
sneaking in. So he's like, his main strength would probably be stealth. Like, hey, enter that building with a bunch of guards, and he'd be perfect for the job, pretty much.
Yeah, and just to further instate that, he's like if you look at the monks that you can blend in with, he is the closest match to all the monks
Yeah.
of any of the Assassin's protagonists.
Yeah.
Even in the newest one where they've sort of brought it back, if you have the Berserker outfit on, like I do, it's just bare heads,
Right.
bare
And
head,
it's just the hoodie.
monks.
It's just the hoodie is the only thing that matches.
Yeah.
I know in my playthrough, I'm trying to get a different armor set, and so I'm trying to find one of the new ones. But we'll get into that later once we get into Eivor. But do you think we covered what his weaknesses? I think before we move on, we should get into the weaknesses of.
That's what we were talking
Yeah.
about, is that he's a good fighter, but he's not great. If you've played the game thoroughly enough at all, you'll know that there's an achievement if you can successfully kill 10 guards without taking a hit, which is something that can be done rather easily in almost every other game, with the exception of, I'd say, Unity, that he's not very strong or gifted in combat, but he is very well-versed in weapons, and he's very good at stealth.
Right. I feel like one of the weaknesses of Altair, is like, one of the things, like, he can't swim.
Yeah.
As soon as you fall in, it's just like, these things, and restart.
And you're like, God damn it, because like you could have been jumping. The free running system wasn't very well developed in the
It
first
was the
game.
first one.
So you're sitting there and you're crouched up on this pole, and you're like, I just got to jump 4 feet to the next pole. And Altair goes, you got to jump this way. He goes, and goes like, no, and you're just like. Especially if you had just killed a main target, the city's on alert, the guards are all coming, and you try to take a shortcut across some wooden poles in a pond. It could be a pond that's waist deep, and he's no, oh God, and just dies.
So
and it's like
wasn't Altair like trained from birth?
It's like,
so
don't you think there'd be a
wisdom-
swimming seminar? So I'd probably, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a novice, complete rookie, 10 being grandmaster status.
Okay.
The best of the best. Where would you put Altair's stealth capabilities?
So, I would say for sure an 8.
Now, last but not least, his combat ability. I think he's a strong 5, maybe a solid 6.
I would say so. I do.
Buttery potatoes.
Secret time. As a kid, you know that song Armadeus? I thought the lyrics were hot potatoes. Hot potatoes, hot potatoes. Hot potatoes, hot potatoes, hot potatoes. Oh, hot potatoes. No joke.
Alright.
I touched you.
So, are we ready to move on to Atio?
Yes.
Okay. So, before we go on to Atio, which one should we pull from? 'Cause I was thinking from Brotherhood.
All of them. I think Ezio was also the first one to really start tapping into ledge assassinations, air assassinations.
Yeah.
He had much more powerful running animations. Like Altair could run and assassinate, but people would detect you quickly.
Yeah.
And it was more like you just sort of pushed them to the ground with a blade in their chest.
Yeah.
Ezio was the one who tackled people to the ground with a forceful push.
He was the one, too, that did the first double assassination in the games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Because he had the double hidden blades first.
Thanks to, supposedly, Da Vinci, in the game series at least.
Yeah.
And so his lethality is higher. He's able to fight way more people at once.
Prior to him kind of like being the assassin, is like he joined he was basically a street kid, brawler, and so he technically learned his fighting ability. He got his fighting ability from just being on the streets.
By being Italian.
Yeah. Being Italian. Hey!
Hey! Hey, what's going on here?
And so then I think when his father and his little brother got killed, that was a strong motivator for him.
It was a passion.
Yeah.
It was a drive.
Yeah, so as far as his motivation to be an assassin, join the order was definitely there.
He's a better climber than Altair.
Definitely.
Definitely more agile.
Yeah.
He's stronger. He's better at combat even though he wasn't trained from birth. And he's a little shittier at stealth.
Yeah.
There's also much fewer hiding areas. There's plenty of like haystacks and stuff.
Right.
But there's not as many hiding areas.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily because Ubisoft made it that way as much as you could argue that Altair knew more places to hide because he was better at stealth. So I would probably give Ezio like a 9 in combat, maybe a 7 or 8 in agility, and like a 6 or 7 in stealth. Because then once you get past Ezio, you have Connor, who, even though I don't necessarily think he's the greatest assassin, dude was hunting bear at like 9 years old.
Fair, yeah. For Connor, it'd be more of an axe.
It would be his axe, yeah.
So going on to Connor, like, honestly, Connor is one of my personal favorites. Like, definitely one of my favorite assassins. Connor, like Altair, has been trained since birth. However, Connor wasn't
to survive.
Yes,
in the wild
it was.
from
Yes,
birth.
it wasn't like you will be an assassin kind of thing. It would be like
That
for
was
Connor
his mother died in that fire in the
Yes.
village, and when he finds those guys, he's like, "What's your name?" And the guy's dumb enough to be like, "My name's Charles."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm gonna remember that." Like, that's the moment you should have killed the kid because that's some mischievous shit, and he's just like, "Whatever."
So
and then fast forwarding to when he's a teenager, because he's not even an adult when he does all that shit in Boston.
Yeah, during the Boston Massacre. I don't remember. Anyways, so
But Connor does manage to kill Hatham. He manages to at least best him in combat.
Right. I mean, Connor beat him 1-on-1. Like, he squared up pretty much to Hatham. It wasn't like, I must kill you in your sleep kind of deal. It was like, time to end this kind of deal. Pretty much. And Connor won. Which, that in itself is very impressive. Like, Connor, at an early age, I mean, he fought against bears. Like, if you were to go in the wilderness in 3, you can fight a bear barehanded if you want, and actually win if you're skilled enough. And it's like, not all assassins can do that because an animal is very different when it comes to like fighting a person, because an animal is stronger than you, and in some cases maybe even faster depending on what kind of animal they are. Like, a bear is so much bigger and so much stronger than a person.
Not to mention that even in the more modern games where you have to fight by beating a bear with your weapons to death, Connor was able to do it with 3 time sequences.
Yeah.
Time it right, stab, time it right, stab, time it right, kill.
Yes.
And it's like, that requires being faster than a creature that runs at 35 miles an hour. Being smarter, which isn't necessarily anything special, but then being able to be strong enough where as he hits it, he's also sort of pushing them away.
Right.
Because that's what he grew up doing. So, going up against a person who's just running at you, even if they're well trained. He has a very good
reflex
upper hand.
Yeah, his reflexes. I would say he's one of the best. Like I don't think of it in a sense off the top of my head to like can be his reaction time.
He's one of the most agile. He became very smart by the time he was an adult because of the training he had, and he was always strong.
Right.
By the time he was an adult, he was actually much larger than his master. Just
Yeah.
towers over him a bit. He's all big and
Yeah.
ripped, but he's still that fast. So he's one of those sort of possesses an X factor of he's just big and fast.
Yeah.
He might as well be a prize fighter.
So I mean, as far as his loadout, I think Connor's the first person to go into loadout.
He's gonna have two axes and his hidden
hidden
blades.
blades. You think
Correct me if I'm wrong, but his hidden blade also doesn't just come out straight, but it also comes out and he can hold it like a knife.
Okay.
I would put his strength, his agility, and his strength and agility, I'd say, are both 9s, maybe
Right.
even 10s.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
But his stealth. Now, he can hide in trees and bushes and all that, and he's great with rope darts. But for another assassin fighting him, they're going to see him in a tree.
Right.
This has already been discussed on other channels. They say his stealth is not the best. He prefers a little bit more of a aggressive approach.
Yeah.
There's even missions where you specifically walk in to get everyone to attack you, and you just kill them all.
Yes.
And he sort of just is in a blood rage the whole time because he
Yes.
knows this place is where one of his mother's murderers is.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas every other assassin, except for maybe Eivor, because
We'll get into Eivor later.
yeah,
So
would be like, we're gonna
tippy toe.
Hey.
Huh? What's that?
let the cold steel take you.
Yeah. So I do it every day. Like, he can be stealthy, but as far as like facing an assassin, I don't think he'd be really strong. Like, he's literally on top of a tree as a fucking column of British troops, just like left, right, and then all of a sudden, rope dart, and just pull him, and it's like, all right, I guess the fighting. Yeah.
There he is. Oh, it looks like it's time.
Yeah.
That just hops on him and fights them all with. That's where the agility, I think, is his ultimate advantage because he's able to dip behind someone, face him towards them, and all of his buddies shoot him with it.
God.
So yeah, I'd say he's like, we'll just say 9, 9, and 5.
Yeah.
Respectively.
So his ability in combat, I would say his stealth is also almost as good. It's not as great.
His stealth was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he was very creative and he was able to be very stealthy. He was able to blend in the city, into the jungle environment.
He was able to hide in trees properly. So I'd give him stealth like a 7.
Yeah.
I think his combat is like a 9, same as Connor.
Yeah.
And I'd say his agility is like a solid 8.
Yeah.
I won't say a 9 because he's a little bit slower than Connor.
Right.
He's a little bit drunk half the game. I'm pretty sure to hold more rum, yeah. At one point, the ship can now hold a maximum storage of rum. Kenway approves. You're like, I'm Edward Kenway, and I approve of this message. I also just like him because I think he's one of the most charming assassins.
I would say so, yeah.
Edward was just naturally charismatic.
Yeah.
The way he talked to enemies. He'd be like, someone would be like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. And he'd be like, I'd like to see you try, mate. He was like, if someone took Ezio and had a love child with Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow, that's Edward Kenway.
You are a horrible captain, but you have heard of me.
But you have heard of me. That's a good one. So yeah, I think he's like a 9 combat, 8 agility, 7 stealth. Because Shay is a lifelong trained assassin just before Connor's era who single-handedly takes out all the assassins, all of them, except for the Grandmaster, Yeah.
The Templar is like, hey, you should go join our side, type of thing. Yeah.
And he ends up doing it, and he hunts down pretty much every assassin from that bureau.
Yeah.
Who are all older, more experienced, better at combat. He, one at a time, manages to kill them. That he was very strong, physically fit, great with weapons, but he was not very agile.
Mm-hmm.
He had, like, some serious shit going on upstairs, which we'll go ahead and list as an X factor.
Right.
That would affect all of his abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very stealthy.
Okay.
He was probably one of the best at hiding.
Okay.
So without going into too much detail about the game, because neither of us played much of it, I would say it's safe to say, from the outside knowledge I've collected, that he's just like maybe 8, 6, 8 strength, agility, stealth.
Right, okay.
He's sort of like competent, good, but he's not amazing at any particular thing.
I remember him like, I'm in love with a Templar, but she's a Templar. I'm an assassin.
And she wants nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you go to jail, and then some dude's like, "Wait, you can read the shit on the walls? So can I." And that's how you become an assassin. And you're.
I don't even remember that part. But I think moving on, how would you rate Arlo?
Combat Arno is pretty low. Like, at the very beginning of the game, you're immediately getting overwhelmed by enemies.
Yeah.
Even though, yes, they have firearms, even if you're just fighting enemies who were armed with swords and shit, they overwhelm you quickly, and if you get outnumbered, there's not really a reliable counter system.
Yeah.
Because he's not skilled enough.
Yeah.
You can upgrade that, but I've heard from people that it doesn't get that much better. But he is the most agile assassin in the series.
Okay.
He can climb up the tallest buildings the fastest. He can run the fastest because he's also the lightest weight.
Okay.
He's very small, nimble, skinny, just well-toned and defined. And his stealth, I'd say, is pretty high too, but his stealth mechanic is a little janky, and that could just be the way the game was made.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was the first assassin that could lockpick, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's like he's more of like a technical guy who became an assassin through some sort of hopped up
I feel like how to compare him for like DC goes, like he's kind of like Tim Drake. Tim Drake Robin is like very technical.
Uh-huh.
And then Jason Todd's very combative.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson's very like
acrobatic,
better version of Batman's. I mean, that's another topic, another story.
Yeah.
And then Damian Wayne is very combat, more focused, like assassin wise.
So I'd rate his combat fairly low at like a 5.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd rate his stealth very high as like, well, not his stealth, his agility very high as like a 10.
Right.
Because he is the.
It was really unfortunate. I really wish Phoenix succeeded because I feel like.
Oh, hello, you big handsome brute. Hello, yes, who's a good boy. Ooh, you got kisses? No.
What?
No.
Hey, Pepe.
Who's a good boy? Yes. Thank you. I appreciate you saying hello.
Oh, really?
Because there was something about beating a dude to death with a bladed pimp cane that just... she'd pull that shit apart. Whap, 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 whap. 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 And you're just like, oh my god. And since we're applying this to a real life fight, they would be, both of them, just as brutal.
My question for our scenario is like...
How do we rate each one?
Or I'm talking about like, are they...
Fighting together as a team?
Yeah.
Or for some reason are they fighting each other?
Exactly. I think it's...
Both? Let's look at it from both scenarios.
Okay.
So that it's objective.
Okay.
So, in scenario 1, Jacob and Evie Fry are teamed up, and they have the goal of them both surviving the engagement and being the last 2 left alive in our little battle royale. In scenario 2, for whatever reason, they don't give a fuck, and they just want to be the last one left alive. Maybe in scenario 2, whoever the lone one victor is will ultimately control the fate of the world or whatever bullshit. Make up your own thing. We don't care. Scenario 1, They have an obvious advantage.
Yes.
It's two of them.
Yes.
They are raised together, trained together, they fought together.
And they overcome their each other's weaknesses. So with Jacob, he's horrible at stealth.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the worst stealth
He's
assassins.
like a 3 or a 4
Yeah.
stealth. We'll just state that now.
Horrible.
They even
stealth.
say it in the game. Like, you never took Father's lessons seriously. You couldn't hide anywhere. Like, you were just a guy who stands out in a crowd as you got your arms crossed and you're just staring at your target. He's essentially just like, I'm here to kill you. This is what I'm here to do. Whereas Evie has arguably one of the highest stealth by far.
Yeah.
Because she's small, she's quiet. There's even abilities where she just literally becomes indetectable because
she turns invisible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She becomes invisible as long as she's standing still.
Yes.
And crouched.
Yes.
So in stealth mode.
Yes.
Jacob, on the other hand, it might as well be the Kool-Aid man of the assassins. He just walks in. Oh yeah, I'm Jacob Fry.
So, real quick, I saw a video of Game Shrouds, and so this dude's playing Assassin's Syndicate, and he's having to rescue the children from fire. So he puts on one of the children, and he has this animation where he kicks the door open, and the kid in front of the door goes like flying.
Oh my god!
Like ragdoll, like woo!
Oh man!
I'm like, oh my god, I wasn't prepared for that. Honestly.
I could just imagine that.
I'll show you it later, just so you can have it.
I just have it in my imagination. Jacob Fry being like, Evie being like, now remember, when you go in to save them, try not to hurt anyone while you do it. I got this. Really, Jacob?
So, anyways,
Just smiles.
so Evie, I think as far as combat, I think combat wise, Evie's still pretty strong.
Still very
I
up
think,
there.
but compared to the two, Jacob has a vastly superior combat.
She's like a 7 or 8 in combat. I'll say a 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's good at combat, but when she does take a hit, it hurts her way more.
Yeah.
Because obviously she's smaller. Has nothing to do with the fact that she's female. She's just smaller and not as muscly.
Yeah.
And Jacob's this brick shit house. He's, I think, the second largest assassin.
Oh, really?
Aside from Connor and Eivor. Because I think Eivor's character, he's not, like, tall.
Features.
But he's
Yeah.
a fucking Norse.
Yeah. He's a unit.
He's just a big boy.
Yeah.
And plus the Norse, were when they participated on Vikings, they're just ruthless fighters. But we'll get into that. And his agility, I'd say, suffers for it. He does get some things that make his agility easier.
He does have the grapple, which, I mean, it's not. He doesn't use offensive, so I think utility is outlawed. His grapple, yeah. So is that right there?
Because it is also, you're talking about the
grapple
fire, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we measured both. We didn't really measure Evie. What would you rate her combat?
Her combat's like a 6 or 7.
Stealth.
Her stealth is very high, like a 9. Her agility, I'd say, is like an 8.
I feel like her would be 10 since she can learn to turn invisible.
Fine, she's the stealthiest of them all, 10.
Um.
But her agility, I'd say, is like an 8.
Yeah.
Because she's not the fastest. But, yeah. So to quell that question. But if it was just everyone 1v1v1v1v1, including those two, Evie is considerably lower on the ladder. And I think she would die fairly early on because of any number of variables.
Yeah.
Someday we might have the power to do animations where, just like another YouTube channel that has people fight each other to the death, we could do something like that in the future.
Which we cannot be named.
Yeah, which we cannot be named.
Yeah.
Tisk tisk. I'd love to do a collab with them.
I would be pretty fun.
Hey, dudes at Death Battle, you want to do this for us? Like, I'd love to see a battle royale of all the assassins. Just give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, for real. His combat ability is very, very high.
His ability to use an assortment of weapons
Salt,
is
pepper.
pretty high.
Need to season.
Okay. Good job.
Because it tastes lovely as like a garlicky-ish
Black pepper.
plain potatoes.
Did you ever add the butter?
Yes, I added a ton of money.
So
Okay.
his agility, I think, is definitely going to be kind of weak because Egypt at the time was very flat. There wasn't a lot of high places. He can
It took
take
forever to climb the pyramid.
Yeah,
Like
I do remember that
any
too.
other assassin would just run. Like they had the ability to.
Yeah,
It would have been exhausting. They might have slowed down a little towards the top, but
they
it's like-
could have reached.
yeah, it was really time consuming.
I do remember that. Like,
And every time you were trying to climb, you were able to climb with precision, but not with speed.
yes.
And that's what made it a little bit of a pain in the ass.
So I mean, I think Biden was able to utilize like more of a building to climb. However, it definitely took a lot longer
Right.
to like climb up a structure. So as far as agility and climbability, I don't think it'd be very strong. However, I think his combat and his loadout is very versatile too. Like as far as I'm mistaken, he preferred the small shield and a sword, and of course the bows.
Yeah.
So
And his stealth was okay, but not amazing.
right,
Because
he was a magi, so he was never like it's equivalent to a police officer like this. They're not like
stealth was invented after his time.
pretty much. Well, Odyssey, you have the choice of being the male or female of Alexios or Cassandra. I mean, it doesn't really, we're saying them one people since you can choose. They're not two separate characters like Jacob and Evie Fry. So, with Alex, I'm going to call him Alexios because that's what I played through. Alexios was raised from birth to be a Spartan. He is the grandfather, or he's the grandson, my bad, of Leonidas. So he has that blood of Leonidas running through him, which we later found out is actually his bloodlines from the ancient civilization before the Great Calamity. What was it
The
called?
Isu.
The Isu. Okay, so his bloodline is from the Isu. So as far as scoring goes for Alexios,
Hi, Bobby.
I was an A for combat.
I'd say a 9 or a 10, just because if he has the spear, it's essentially an ancient artifact.
That is true, and it is technically part of his loadout too. So yeah. So I would say I run a 9 for combat. So as far as like agility goes, I think it's very high, 8, because he can literally go full charge through multiple enemies and be fine and recover. Stop. And stealth wise, I think it's very weak.
Yeah.
His stealth, I mean,
Good boy. You're a good boy.
The game wasn't really focused on stealth for him. He was raised a
It
Spartan.
was a Spartan, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he was trained to be an assassin.
It was similar to Origins, where it was predating the need for stealth.
right.
It was more like stealth in your actions, not stealth in your
Requirements.
combat.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll say like 4. Same for Bayak.
Which brings us, last but not least,
Is
to my favorite of the series so far,
Eivor.
from Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
So we have not finished the game, so we can't really fully measure his ability.
This,
That's fair enough. I'm okay with that.
I'm gonna go ahead and say the first 2 to die
Okay, let's go with that. I like that first.
Arno
Okay, alright.
and Evie.
I agree with that statement.
If not Evie, then Altair.
No, I think I do agree with that. So I'm gonna go with ifs, but I think Evie and Arno are the first to die, so for sure. So
I think Altair, Shay, Bayek would be next.
okay,
Not necessarily in that order.
right,
Just the ones to go in an all free for all fight.
right.
I think Ezio, Connor, Alexios, and Jacob would be the last 4.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Anyone else who hasn't been mentioned would die before those guys.
Yeah.
Since Alexios doesn't have any assassin training and he's just a Spartan, the Spartans did lose eventually.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Because the all-out assault tactic does not work very well against trained assassins. That's actually what they rely on. So I think Alexios would be the honorable mention of 4th place.
Yeah.
Leaving Jacob, Connor, and Ezio. Where, sorry everyone, Ezio would get 3rd place because he's just not as big as the other two.
Yeah.
He's a little bit faster, but he's not fast enough because Connor's got the reflexes.
Yeah.
Stealth doesn't matter, so I think the last two
that's the point. Yeah.
would come down ultimately to Connor and Jacob. So now who do we think would win between Connor and Jacob? Okay.
So, but
They're both tired. They're both worn out. They're
Right.
both probably a little injured. It's just whoever wants to live more.
like I have my money on Connor, honestly. Because
I sort of want to lean towards Jacob because he's so brutal.
I think I have to come back to it because like it's literally I feel like I have to look it up. Like it's literally down to the wire. Like this.
They're both just as strong. They're both the same size. They're both great reflexes. They're both good at countering.